I'm doing an audio check.
Yeah, Don?
Yeah, I'm just doing an audio check. I've had really squirrely audio problems over the last several weeks, so you can hear me. Good.
Yes, we can.
Thank
And
you.
since Don is here and he's got the big blue dot behind him, we'll all look at Don and we'll all wish Don happy birthday tomorrow.
Ah, thank you.
So
Happy birthday.
yeah,
Happy birthday.
another trip around the sun, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your gift is in, your
Getting
gift is
me
in
too
the
many to
mail.
count these days.
I tell you. And I see Eric's got a giant Mickey Mouse Club pillow. Back from your trips, huh?
Yeah. And then we're heading to Florida next weekend
Oh,
for
great.
our goddaughter's dance competition.
Well, on behalf of myself, Carol, Brock, and all the other Disney stockholders, we thank you. So this week we're going to look at vintage home movies, and we've seen a bunch of actually these are souvenir movies sold by Disney. We're going to concentrate on Disneyland this week. It's interesting. We've shown a number of them before, and collecting these things is really a challenge because first of all, they like to reuse some titles. So if you look at for a movie called A Day at Disneyland, there's probably no less than 5 different versions of A Day at Disneyland. But then there's some subversions because as the park changed over the years, and they went from say the round Skyway buckets to the rectangular Skyway buckets, they'll all of a sudden put that in. Or oh, now we've brought Mr. Lincoln in, so we've got to put him in. So they have the exact same boxes, the exact same catalog numbers, but you put them on the scanner and you've got 2 different movies. And in some cases, it's a small difference, you know, like cut down the length of the thing with the characters and put in Mr. Lincoln. And in others, you look at it and go, why did they make that change? Why did they take out that picture of the Dumbo ride and put in this picture of the Dumbo ride? But again, the exact same box and you know, it gets confusing in that regard. So, but it's fun. It's sort of like every time you put something on the scanner, you know, you feel like you're opening a Christmas present. You don't know what you're going to get. What I'm going to start with is just a real quick little segment to give you an idea of what these movies look like over time. They were released on basically Eastman Kodak stock as opposed to Kodachrome. And the Eastman Kodak stock was a much cheaper film that they could put out, you know, and make more money on it. They had done it in the higher quality stuff you might have used for your home movies. The unfortunate problem with it is that they turn red. It's not that the red gets stronger; it's that the blue and green dyes in the film get weaker, and they take on a very red tint. In some cases, you're able to reverse it, and others, it's just really gone. And what's really interesting is you can get 2 films that are both dated the same thing, say 1960, and one will be much worse than the other. And that's because one could be stored in a place that's in relatively cool conditions, and the other is a place with relatively hot and you know sometimes you know damper conditions that can really go away at it. What's also interesting is you look at these films, and sometimes you get two of the same film, and one of them is nice and sharp and in focus, and the other one's not, because again, they're turning out thousands of these things show at that back of that period of time. And if the technician on one day wasn't carefully adjusting it as well as the other one, you end up with 2 totally different versions. So it's an interesting conundrum. So let me share the screen here. And where do we go? Media player. Okay. And some of these have sound. But this is just a rough idea of what one looks like. Let me move this window up here. This is one for America Sings. So this is on Super 8, which gives you a larger film image and, you know, theoretically a bit more for the scanner to work with. But you can see that, you know, the colors have kind of gone on it. And then you get the typical you know, little amount of jitter and stuff coming from the camera going, the film going through the camera. A lot of these were shot on 35 millimeter. Oh, that's nice. The window closes itself at the end. Okay. A lot of these were shot on 35 millimeter and then, you know, reduced down to close this window, reduced down to 8 or Super 8. Some of it's also shot on 16. Don, I'm going to just make you co-host here for a second, so if you could watch people coming in, I'd appreciate it.
No problem. I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, 1 second. A co-host. Okay. So that was the America Sings the way that you first see it when you come through the scanner. Oh, one other thing with some of the films we're going to be seeing today, there's a great tool if you're restoring video called Topaz Video AI. I've been using Topaz products for a while on some still pictures that really do a great job of, they have one that's really great. It's called Gigapixel, and you can take a really small 72 DPI web resolution picture and blow it up and fill it in. I mean, it comes out really nice. When I was doing my book on the San Francisco World's Fair, I had one image I really wanted to use of them building Treasure Island, putting all the dirt out there to build it. But the Library of Congress was closed because of COVID, and they said we can't get to the original negative. You have the right to use it, but just this tiny little thing. So I used Topaz Gigapixel and blew it up to a 4000 DPI image that came out really nice. I had bought Topaz Video AI, and I was not real thrilled with the first few versions of it, but they've recently done some really nice upgrades that I'm very pleased with the results. So we're going to take America on Parade here that you just saw the one clip. I guess I'm going to have to share the screen again. 1 second. I don't know why I closed the window that time. It's technology, you know. There's always something. Share screen. Okay. So we'll get with America on Parade. This is again a Super 8 film, the same one we just saw the little clip of. And for America on Parade, those may remember it was the 2-year parade, the American Bicentennial Parade, held at both Disney parks. There was a fellow named Bob Yanni, who was the creative director of Disney Entertainment at the time. And this was his big idea. And he brought back the Sherman Brothers, who had left Disney by this time. And they were out doing other movies like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and the Tom Sawyer, that sort of thing. But they came back and they wrote a special song for this called the Glorious Fourth. And this was the first time Disney used a system of timing to go down the street, that the music would follow the parade floats and transition into the background music along the speakers along Main Street at the same time. So it was a great parade. I started at Disney in '76, and it was really cool to go walk backstage and see all the floats. One of the things they did on this that was interesting was they wanted to always go from, because they had to do this system with the synchronized sound, and it was a new thing at the time, they could only go in one direction with it. So they went from Small World down Main Street and ended up at taking the floats out behind Main Street. But now, unlike the other parades where they would just turn around and go back at the end of the day, they had the issue that there wasn't enough room to store everything behind Main Street because the floats were so big. And they also had the sound system only going in the one direction because it was so new. So they had to take all the floats back around to the other side of the park. And since they had never planned to take giant floats around, they had bridges and monorail tracks and all sorts of other things to go around and under. So they had to design the floats not just to come down Main Street, but also to telescope down and go underneath the monorail tracks. So it was really interesting to go back there and watching them, crank the things down and take them around and get them all set up for the next parade. Does anybody have any particular memories or thoughts on America on Parade while we're watching this?
I remember seeing it in Disneyland back in '76 and being kind of weirded out by the big heads on the characters. But it was cool.
They said a lot of kids were freaked out by them because they were, so different. I mean, giant heads, but they worked.
Mm-hmm.
The parade started actually in '75, and it was supposed to run for 2 years. It ended after the 70s, they ended in 76. They did not go all the way into mid 77 as they originally planned for a two-year effort.
Yeah, I think we saw it. I just remember how really crowded it was. I mean, that looks like a pretty decent crowd. We couldn't get anywhere near the street.
It was so popular, Carolyn, that we printed up flyers that the park is closed. We can't fit you in. Why don't you go down the street to Knott's Berry Farm and try coming back later? I mean, you can imagine today, Disney wouldn't even probably admit that Knott's Berry Farm exists. But we actually, the parking lot got full. There was just not room to put another single car in the parking lot. So we, like I said, had brochures turn people away and send them over to Knott's. Usually popular.
Was America Sings built before or after this parade came out?
Came after the fellow that did the music for this. Like I said, the Sherman Brothers wrote the song, and then a fellow named Don Dorsey did the instrumentation for it and played a lot of the music on a synthesizer. He also came up with the concept of having the music float down the street, but he didn't have the technical know-how on how to do it. So the Disney sound department worked that out, and they came up with something called Mickey Track on how to keep the thing synchronized. And it was actually interesting because you have to have a system in which the music can be delayed, because at times the floats will get delayed. One will break down, or a kid will run out in front, or something, and something will happen. So you can't have it where the music just automatically goes into the, you can't have like a 1 hour tape that just goes. It has to be timed to the arrival of those floats in that section. And so until it gets there, you just loop the music from one section. Then when the next float gets there, it has to fade down that section, fade up the next section, and then continue. So it was a very revolutionary system for 75.
Was this before? I tell you all the questions. Was this before or after Electric Light Parade? Because that's the one Don Dorsey is really well known for.
Yeah, he did that right after this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do they do the timing on the music now?
Same sort of thing. They have little transmitters on the floats that will tell it I'm going from zone 7 into zone 8, and it knows zone 8 now will take the music for that float, dial down the music for the float before, and bring up the music from the the float that's just coming in. So
Yeah, it seems pretty precise.
Yeah, there's about 20 different zones or something throughout the parade route, and they drop it down and move it up depending on little transmitters in the floats, which is a very clever concept. I mean, it's a great idea. So, in this particular one, you had the music changed, as the floats came by. So, you had more of a Western sound as the trains were going by. Now you get into a more modern sound as technology arrives. And then, further coming up, it, gets into the Winnie the Pooh and the more modern stuff.
So I assume this is all automatic. There's not like somebody sitting back there with a mixer board that monitors this.
I think in this parade, it was done on a manual basis with somebody monitoring it. Now it's all done on an automatic basis. So I believe on this particular one, there was a control room, and someone would say, we're now at this point, we're now at that point. But now today is all automatic. I don't know, Brock, if you have any information, or you know anything about these particular system?
No, not really, because we weren't involved with these. This was all basically done by the parks. Occasionally, we might be asked to provide something for them, but maybe some of our technical departments did, like the sound and lighting people, but that was about it.
Right, thanks. This particular set here was a tribute to Disney. It was one of the Disney anniversary years, and so they had Disney in the movies, Disney on TV, and Disney in the in the movie theaters as well. So here comes movies. Somebody want to get that spam call for me?
We need to talk to you about your auto warranty, Bill.
Yeah, You know, I don't get as many of those as we used to get. Of course, we don't answer the phone as much as we used to. But,
That same one has called several times.
yeah, yeah, those robots are persistent. So at this point, the music would seg to a more circus sounding theme, you know, with he did synthesizer sounds of calliopes, that sort of thing.
Well,
Bongo.
it would be
Well,
interesting to know how many different frequency bands Disney uses.
I think in this particular parade, there were 25 or so different musical segments for it. Now, there may be a sound version of this film out there in home movie stuff. I don't know. It's one more thing as they keep coming up. I keep looking and trying to find them. By the way, if anybody has any of the Disney home movies, the souvenir films or anything, and they want them digitized, I will be glad to do it, no charge. I'm just trying to preserve and collect these. So if anybody has any of these movies you'd like to get done, please let me know and I'll do my best. So like I said, in this one, you get mixed results with the colors. You get some of the red dialed down, some of the greens dialed up. If I had real commercial grade, you know, stuff I could do more, or if I had more hours in a day, I might be able to do more. But at least it's not, you know, the sort of fuzzy red version that we started with. And we'll see on some others as we get through the day today. Some came out really, really nice, and others you go, oh boy, that was really a goner.
Yeah, this one seems to, it's the color is much better, but it doesn't have the brightness you would expect. It seems like it's an overcast day almost, if you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it really does. And you saw that somehow something has changed in my media player that it will stop doing these. Yeah, as you saw when you first started at the film, it just looked, you know, sort of hazy, didn't it? So let's see what we got here. So this particular one I had done before. Let me get it started here. But sometimes we get better results. So share screen. This is another one where you go and you say, okay, I've done this movie, and I'll look at it and you go, oh, they've changed it. So we'll go and take a look here. They did several versions of this one again, where they would take out different parts of the park, change things around as they, you know, made it changes to the park itself. And sometimes you wonder why they made a particular change, and others, you know, okay, that was a big thing we had to go. But sometimes you'll get a mix and match. So we'll be I think this one or the next one has a scene on the Matterhorn. So in this particular case, you have people in 70s style clothing and everything. They're heading off on the Jungle Cruise. But when we get to the Matterhorn and you're taking the ride, you can look out and you can see the TWA moon rocket and other things in there that they probably figured people would not have caught, you know, as they're watching it. So interesting how they update some parts and save others. It's also interesting in the Walt Disney World version of some of these, they actually ended up using Disneyland footage. So if you get the Pirates of the Caribbean souvenir movie from Disney World, you'll look at it and go, that was kind of interesting because I don't remember that particular scene. Well, that's because it was actually in Disneyland, because the two rides are not identical. But this was great stuff. If you went on a vacation back then and you know, you bought your movie and you brought it home, you know, you could you know, thrill all your in-laws and relatives with all the tales of where they should go on vacation. And it was a great way to relive your memories, because obviously stuff like this, you know, you could get this scene, but not the scene right before it, as you went through the park.
Yeah, the other thing that's great is the professional editing, which means that it's probably better than about 85% of the home movies, choppy, snap, snap,
Yes.
snap.
Yeah, I mean, and things like this, again, they could obviously set up something on a tripod and not be bouncing around and, you know, get nicer views. I keep thinking when I see these things, all the bad jokes, like the tiger, you know, the scene with the tiger standing in the temple, and you know, you got to come by and say you don't need to worry about that tiger. They can jump up to 20 feet, but we're a good 18 feet away. You know, stuff like that. So, great fun. And you can start again trying to date things. Okay, the Tiki Room sponsored by Dole here. At other times, earlier times, was United Airlines. To still go out there today and, you know, get your giant Dole Whip, which I think are even more popular now than they were, you know, 20 years ago. I mean, the line for the Dole Whip is it's you have to start booking in an app. And when Carol and I were there the last time, you book a Dole Whip on the app and you got to come back in half an hour to pick it up. So I guess it's better than standing in line for half an hour, but that's how popular the things are. And this is the sort of thing you
But
could
Bill,
really,
luckily the cast member came by and offered us seats for the parade while we were waiting for the Dole Whip.
yeah, that worked out really well. That was a very nice unexpected perk. We were sitting there on a rock, and the gal came up and said, "Are you waiting for somebody?" And I thought, you know, am I in the way or something? And she said, "Would you like to see the parade?" And we said, "Yeah, but we're waiting for Dole Whip." "Oh, well, I'll wait for you." So she waited with us for 20
Wow.
minutes, took us down and gave us VIP seats in front of the parade. So that was great. Now, in this particular film, it's kind of interesting. Again, these are the sort of things be very, very hard to get on your own. But they used right there, E.J. Peeker, the actress. She was in a film that they did with the Osmond brothers and Kurt Russell and everybody visiting and discovering the Haunted Mansion when it opened at Disney World or Disneyland. So all of a sudden she turns around in this one particular scene. I've always wondered if she or her agent ever caught that and whether or not she gets residuals on that quick turnaround she did. But I figure the editor just made one giant mistake and put a famous person in the middle of this video.
No spoken line, so she's probably okay.
Yeah, could be. I tell you, there's so many people who could just go for the rights, you know, the use of their images or whatever.
Peppers Ghost Galore.
It's just kind of a funny thing when you're watching, and all of a sudden you look and you say, I know where that was originally from. I said, when you're on here, you can look around and try to catch the early version of Tomorrowland out there. It's also interesting at times you start with one design of a sled and you'll see another design of a sled coming by as they mixed and matched.
That and the single sled versus the double sled too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see.
Yeah. Yeah, like this one has the number 7 on it, and you're going to see others come down with a different paint scheme and no numbers. So, oh, there's Tomorrowland, there's the TWA rocket. You know, that stuff all gone by the 70s when the rest of this was shot.
I saw the House of Future down there for a moment.
Yeah, it's there. They probably are still paying the medical bills for the cameraman that had to shoot this thing, so they probably didn't want to do it again. And that last sled that went by had a giant dent in it on the side. So, but yep, different paint scheme here. No numbers on the side. And off we go. Again, the song gets in your head. It's not my fault. But this is the sort of thing. Sometimes the colors and everything do clean up nicely in these old movies. So when I scan them, I scan them in high definition on the scanner. Then I put through a program called Film 9, which does a really great job of digitally taking out dirt. You can see a small horizontal scratch going through this. It has a hard time with that because if it's in, what it does a frame by frame comparison. And if there's a little bit of dirt that pops up on a frame, it says, okay, you weren't in the frame before, you're not in the frame after, you must be dirt. I'll mathematically take it out. Unfortunately, a vertical scratch that goes through it, for frame after frame after frame, the computer just assumes that's part of the picture and can't really deal with it. But it also does a lot of stabilization for the camera jitter that you normally get of just the film going through the gate in the original camera. Then after that, it also does a pretty good job in the initial color correction. Then after that, I take it into a program called Pinnacle Studio 26, which does more of the color correction, particularly on the severely red faded images. And it also is what I do the primary editing in, as far as taking out bad scenes, bad splices. Like in this film here, every time it went between segments, so we go from Tomorrowland into Small World or whatever, they would fade down the black, and the scanner would just go crazy as it went to black, trying to bring the brightness level back up. So I just manually faded those back out again. And then finally now, in the last month, I've added Topaz as the final step. It upscales this, so these are all upscaled to 60 frames per second. The originally Super 8 was shot at 18 frames per second, so it's been digitally upscaled to give it more of a video look and greater clarity. I just get a kick out of how these dolls and everything are so well done with the leg movements and everything. You don't really see any sort of rods pushing them or things moving them or anything. And they had the great costumes that Alice Davis did, on them. I mean, just the details are really kind of fun. So with that, we'll probably pop back out of here. Okay, we've got that was Disneyland highlights #1, and now we will get Disneyland highlights #2 probably. Let's see, I'm trying to figure what went where. Well, let's just move further on down. We're going to go into Tomorrowland now. This was a kind of interesting one. I bought a roll of film you get on eBay, and just says Disneyland. And sometimes you can't get the seller to tell you if it's home movies or whatever else that people have done. But this turned out to be a bunch of films. Disney, when they first started selling their movies in the very early days of Disneyland, were done by Hollywood Film Enterprises, the same people that put out Mickey Mouse cartoons and that. Then they went to another one that was called Full Color Films, and then they finally decided to take it in themselves. So we're going to take a look here at Tomorrowland. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Okay, hang on a second. That was just a clip. Tomorrowland. Okay, where did you go? Okay, here's the one I wanted. So this is, let me share the screen again. This was one of the ones that was done in the late 1950s. Here we go. And this is what was done as what they called full color movies releases. So again, they were pretty red. You do what you can on it, and I was pretty happy how most of it came out. But again, we got a very early version of Tomorrowland. There's the TWA rocket and the Twin Theaters down below. This right behind the rocket was where you could fly model airplanes on a string. And we get into the main entrance here. You had the world clock, the Hall of Chemistry off to the side. And it's soft focus, and that's just the way they came out at the time. I get a real kick out of palm trees. That would be just what I would focus on if I was doing a movie about Disneyland. So this would be circa 1959 or so. And Circarama, we've talked before about bringing back the Circle Vision film from Expo 58 in Brussels. So again, that helps us date this to 59 or approximately then. Love all those kinetic things blowing around on the Skyway sign there. Before the Matterhorn was built, that was Holiday Hill or Holiday Mountain. Kind of a neat shot of the Skyway. That's again where it shows you how Disney added stuff with putting the Matterhorn, just it became so much more scenic and everything. So how much many of us remember jumping up and trying to be that high, right? The cars with no center rail. So you were actually driving and not just following along on a mechanized rolling thing. You got to actually steer the car and crash into things. And that's why they put the center rail in, because everybody was crashing into everything, and you ended up with traffic jams, and they'd have to go and unclog the roads. Kind of neat looking little cars though, aren't they?
I suppose those are collector's items if you can get them.
Yeah, I know that the Disney Family Museum has one because Walt gave it to his grandson as a birthday present, and the family kept it all the years, so they have it up there. There was some guy that got one of the 1960 vintages cars, and he actually made it roadworthy and legal here in California. It cost him something like $100,000 to do it, but he did it.
I was going to say too, it was interesting to see Autopia with no vegetation to speak of other than ground covers and things, where now you're going through forests and trees and everything
Yeah.
else.
I got a kick out of these costumes. I would not want to wear that glass ball in my head on a hot day. Yeah, I wonder where these costumes ended up. You know, is that Miss Disney Space Girl costume someplace?
They have the space the one with the ball up in the DVC lounge at Disneyland now.
Oh,
That's
really?
cool.
The costumes there?
Yeah, just the male one, not the female one.
Oh, that's great to know. Thank you. Almost worth joining it, huh? Okay.
Well,
So,
if we run into you, you bring up guests.
Yeah.
I'll bring you up there so you can see that.
oh, that'd be great. Thanks. So now we're going to go into Frontierland. At this point now, Disney is still working with their old licensee, Hollywood Film Enterprises. They've been making transitions, but they've started coming up with now, let's do the thought of a film for each land. And we're going to go, let's see, share screen. And we'll go visit all the wonders of Frontierland. Whoops. Hang on a second. I can't see my own screen here. 1 second. So I don't know if you can.
Everything's black right now.
Yeah, hang on. Let me stop. Is it back?
There it is. Yeah,
Okay, let me rewind this. Whoop. Here we go again.
that was Frontierland at night.
Yeah. During an eclipse.
Yep.
This was
That's the-
obviously, as they say, rode hard and put away wet. Lots of scratches in this particular one. So over time, hopefully I'll get a better copy, but until then, you know, we can just enjoy what was there and what is gone. You know, what's really amazing is the number of times Carol and I'll be watching some show, and you know, I'll start yelling, "Why did they put the scratches in?" You know, it was something that was shot recently, and they start putting scratches and stuff to make it look like old film, but it's somebody, you know, shot today talking about something today, and why you need to make it look old is beyond me.
Oh, there's a plug-in for that.
Yes.
Yeah, quite a few actually.
So the Indian Village was gone by the time I first got to Disneyland. It had been replaced by Bear Country. But this was a very popular area out in the original park where Native Americans would come out and do a number of dances. and then they would invite the audience members to come out and dance with them. And it shows up in a tremendous number of home movies because it was great for audience participation. And we had the Davy Crockett keelboat ride. You can see, you know, everybody wants to ride up on top, you get a better view. Unfortunately, that's what did it in. The boats got top heavy and one tipped over. So animals off along the side there. The peaceful Indian village. Graveyard. And the Columbia, which obviously we have and Disney World does not. Yeah, it'd be interesting to go to a meeting and see what made Walt decide he wanted to recreate the Columbia. You know, I guess the capacity of the Mark Twain was at a certain level, but you wonder how they pick of all the ships you could pick, you know, how they pick which one, how they decided to do it. And when it was originally built, it didn't have a below deck section. Now it has a recreation of the original cabins and a little sort of maritime thing, you know, museum theme to it.
Was it in any of his movies?
What's that?
Was it in any of his movies? That often explains how things got in there.
No, it's the first ship, I think, to circumnavigate the globe, and they may have picked it on for that reason. But you know, just kind of interesting. You think about, because I've read a lot of the descriptions of how they picked their first, you know, TV shows that they were doing and what they were looking for. It'd be interesting just to see what discussions they had about the ship.
I think he did want a historical ship, and it was the first American ship to circumnavigate the world. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see. So we did Tomorrowland, Frontierland. Okay, we have another Tomorrowland here. So let's me bring this up. This was a later sequence that they did of movies. Again, you can get the exact same movie, the exact same catalog number, and you get different movies. So, and then trying to figure out why they changed some of the things, you know, hard to know. This was the Tomorrowland that I knew. I mean, this was the rocket jets and everything when I got there in 1976. So, you know, it was the Tomorrowland I frankly loved. I mean, the look at the people mover here. I mean, it was just a great way to get around, see the park. But again, from an engineering point of view, really great on how you came in, you know, all jumped up together, but then as you came out, it would spread you out and, you know, not make you feel like you were in a conveyor belt. You're in a little miniature train. The Mary Blair murals in the background. You can tell this was very early on because they later had to put a safety bar around the cars there because some idiot kid tried to jump out. So, you know, that they had to change that. I like this here because the gift shops at this point all had different merchandise in them. Not like today where it seems like every shop at the park has the same damn stuff. The Mighty Microscope ride, which was just cooler than cool. For folks that didn't know what that one was, it shrunk you down to an atom inside a snowflake, and it was a really great little ride. That's where Star Tours is now.
Great Sherman Brothers tune too.
Yes, molecule. Yeah, yeah,
Miracles for Molecules.
yeah. Out cruising through what is now California Adventure. The motorboat cruise was great fun. I mean, again, you're on a rail, you're not doing anything, but you know, kids just really ate that up. I've mentioned before, I took some of my staff from England here, so you had all these very, very proper British people, and they were just loving it out there in that motorboat ride. We had it was really a fun day. You know, so different than anything they had back home in England. They were just, you know, they were all being kids again and enjoying themselves. It was a fun visit. But they always talk about Tomorrowland, the land on the move, and you can see how many things are going in different directions: submarines, monorails, skyway cars, people movers, lots going on.
I can remember being terrified that I was going to hit the rocks on that boat ride.
Yeah, it's really the sort of stuff you look at that, you know, they simulate the little rapids and everything, and you know, kids eat that stuff up, you know. So we'll let's see, we'll go visit Adventureland, I think, next. Let's see, I don't think we've done this particular one. So hang on, have we seen this? No, oh, this one, yeah, this is a one here that you will not see Disney in Disneyland today. So again, 1960, they did a whole bunch of them because they changed vendors in 1960. So all the old movies couldn't be done anymore. Come on, let's go. Here we go. And this one, what do we have at the entrance to Adventureland? We have some nice shrunken heads or whatever hanging out here. So you know, just the sort of thing you would not do today. This one, by the way, was bright red, as cherry red as you could be. So I did the best I could on it. Again, if I had commercial stuff that, you know, goes for 10,000 bucks a package, I could do more. If there's anybody out there that has an extra $10,000 who would like to loan it to me or give it to me or do it yourself, let me know. No takers, huh? Damn, I was really hoping. Yeah, Don, when you open your birthday cards tomorrow, if there's an extra 10 grand in there, please keep me in mind.
I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah.
It almost looked like the water was going uphill there, didn't it?
Yeah,
The waterfall.
maybe it's the trick of frame rates or something. Think how many times those ears have wiggled in 70 years, huh?
I'm really impressed with the number of Super 8 cameras I'm seeing people carry on the boats. I didn't remember everybody having one of those.
Yeah, back then, you know, now of course everybody's got their phone or whatever, but back then that was the way to take it through.
They weren't cheap.
If this is 60, it wouldn't have been Super 8 yet.
No, it's yeah, it'd still be a regular 8, right?
Great, yeah. Not so Super 8.
You know, also with regular 8, I gather there was a regular 8 with sound, but it was very, very uncommon. So it was really when Super 8 came out that they were able to do the sound versions of the whole movies. I still have in my garage, untouched probably the last 30 years, a Super 8 sound camera, and I got to find some of the films I shot on it. And now we return to the most dangerous part of your trip, the civilization.
Swap out the skipper, it looks like.
And he's reloading, getting ready for the next perilous trip down the rapids. Okay, so Adventureland. Oh, now we're going to do Pirates of the Caribbean here. This was a tough one to do because the dark scenes, as I said, tends to throw the camera off or the scanner off as it's trying to recreate some of these things. But I think it came out reasonably well. If it's not good enough for anybody, I'll be glad to refund your price of admission. Again, you can try to start dating some of these. Sometimes the leaders actually have the dates on them, and they'll say things like Pirates of the Caribbean short version, which is what this particular one said. So now I have to, of course, look for the long version. But sometimes they'll have the date. Sometimes you can just go by the guest's clothes or, other things that have changed in them. Excuse me.
About what year was this?
This would have been somewhere mid-70s. Early 70s, if I'm thinking, based on the box design. But as you look through it, the clothing and the hairstyles and everything help. We're not seeing men wearing hats or suits or ladies and frilly dresses and pearl necklaces and stuff. So you can start, telling that you've moved out of those years. I remember walking through Pirates and what a kick it was, to go like up on the pirate ship and see that, the pirates only existed from the part that you could see above the ship. To me, you just think they build a whole figure. Well, why build the figure if you're not going to see it? So it was just kind of interesting to walk around and, see half a donkey or half a pirate. Shift your cargo.
Well, also on the women there in that scene under the dresses, it was just framework,
Yeah,
except for the one, of course.
right. Yeah, you don't need to put legs or anything if you're just going to have the frame of the dress and shoes sticking out.
Mhm.
That pirate on the bridge, my dad came out to Disney on a visit back when I was still in college. And he came back, he could not stop raving about the pirate on the bridge having hair on his leg. The attention to detail that Disney had done to make it so realistic. And
That's
my mother finally told him, she didn't want to hear about the damn pirate anymore. I mean, it was really funny. Of all the things at Disneyland, that really made a memory on him.
Well, I was going to say the same thing because we got to see it during their preview times. My dad worked for the Southern California Gas Company, and they would have their picnic nights, they called it, or their once a year gatherings there. And it happened to be they were running test runs of it, so we got to see it early before it opened to the public. And that was my first reaction, was both that pirate's leg and something about the burrow just seemed so realistic in that one scene. It was just like amazing. We had to get right back on and go see it again. And I really paid attention the second time. It's like, yeah, there's really hair growing out of his leg.
Yeah, it's a great little detail. Like I said, Dad just came back and he was on and on about it. So I was really glad years later to be able to write it with him and see he enjoyed it just as much, 20 years later or whatever. But he always would give me a hard time because he had a picture of him with Mickey in front of the train station. And after I went to work for Disney, he gave me a hard time that, yeah, okay, well, I just want to remind you, I've known Mickey longer than you have. So, But I had to tell him I knew Mickey better, Mickey signed my checks. So this comes from the same period of time. You can tell this next one's A Day at Disneyland. And it comes from the same period of time as the last one because they went to this motif in the background here of the posters in the area. But there are at least 4 different versions that start the exact same way that have different footage in them. So makes it fun trying to figure them all out. Oh, we got a nice view of Main Street as we fly down it and looking out from the train station. So obviously, let's get the characters, the street entertainment to pose out here so we can get their pictures. And this is, again, all of a sudden popped up great moments with Mr. Lincoln. So some of the rest of Main Street's gone and Lincoln's dropped in. But then after Lincoln gets done, you think it would go back to the rest of the movie. Oh, right there, Spectacular Balloon Ascent. Just stop that 1 second. That was kind of interesting. They did a thing, I forget the year, I had it written down or left a note, but they did a thing where they launched the balloon that was used from around the world in 80 days, and they launched it from in front of the castle as a great publicity thing. It was done at Easter time, and damn, I can't remember the year. Maybe Don can look it up. But it was the whole big thing of telling everybody we're going to have this big thing. Well, when it came up, the wind was not as favorable as they thought. And it started, first of all, having the danger it was going to blow into the trees around Main Street and puncture itself. And then, it's not going to hit the trees, but that Matterhorn's getting in the way. So that was the one and only time they decided to do a spectacular balloon ascent. But that's where these things are kind of interesting. You catch a little detail like that, you can really take it right down to basically the month that this was filmed. Esmeralda is still out there on Main Street. A lot of those machines are the crank Nickelodeon things are gone. You can also start dating these things by the way the Disney band costumes are done.
Back in the day, what did they actually show in the Main Street cinema? I mean, now it's the Mickey Mouse black and white cartoons, but
They
back
had
then,
about
what did they
6
show?
different screens in there, and they showed old black and white movies. Generally, one Disney movie like Steamboat Willie or something. But then they also had, a Charlie Chaplin film or other films that were playing on the screens.
Marquis said Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, and they actually
Yeah,
had
some of
what you call the Phantom of the Opera could come out on Main Street and scare people. So
Cool. Thank you.
Back when the cups were located there.
yeah.
No, they were moved, weren't they? They moved them over later, or did
Yeah,
they?
the whole thing's been changed.
That whale scared the snot out of me when I was a kid.
Between that and the rocks, it's amazing that you ever went back.
Yeah.
Again, I love this movie because that's the Fantasyland that was there when I worked there. So, great memories of the pirate ship and Skull Rock and all that sort of stuff.
For these passing along their stuff, they were the one for 36 days.
Oh my God.
Yes.
How do you do that? I didn't think everyone was complaining that you can't book more than X amount of days. And how are you there for a month?
Can't quite hear what you folks are saying.
Sorry.
This is, again, another interesting one to walk through on the days when the park was closed. Until I was in there one day walking through and they decided to test the sound system. And now you're climbing back over all the things trying to get out and everything. And you know, the dolls are singing and singing and singing. Boy, you're just glad to get back out of there. Isn't that a great shot? All the different things. It's so realistic. It looks like the LA freeway system.
Back when there was a lot of motion in Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
It really is sad to see it how it is today.
Yeah, it
And
is.
knowing what it was like. Yeah.
You know, when you stop and think about it, this is an amazingly brave ride for Disney to have done back then. You know, putting the people in that thing and taking them below the surface of the water. I keep thinking, God forbid the thing would spring a leak, you know, trying to get everybody back out of there or anything. But, you know, what a kick there was. And there's quite a few stories that the submarine skippers would tell you that people had amazing claustrophobia attacks that were convinced they were in a real submarine deep under the water. And they'd have to let them stand up in the skipper compartment to, you know, look out and see that they were inside a building. But I mean, people would really have absolute panic attacks, and they had a whole procedure and how to deal with it. And that one you might notice, by the way, let's do the film and not show any of what's is outside of the Matterhorn. That way we don't ever have to date it and redo it again. So I still enjoy when I go to Disney World riding on the People Mover there. Sorry that this one was taken out for the rocket rods, which only lasted, I think, maybe 2 years, maybe.
And tore up the track so bad.
Yeah, I mean, they never thought about the fact that these tracks are flat and you can't take a vehicle around them. You got to bank them, and they didn't want to pay the money to bank them, so they kept just tearing the crap out of each other. But now, of course, the cars are on a center rail. Actually, that shot looks like they weren't on it, so it looked like they used some old footage right there. Mr. Johnson taking us on a flight to the moon. No sponsored by sign on it anymore in this one. They had the Barker bird outside, and he created such a crowd of telling everybody, come on into the tiki room, come and see me, that jammed up the entrance into Adventureland, so they ended up having to take him out. And that was voiced by Wally Bogue, you know, famous as Pecco Bill and the Diamond Horseshoe, or the Golden Horseshoe. Actually, he did both, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm right and I'm right.
He moved to Florida when Disney World opened. Was there
Yeah.
for several years. Saw him both places.
Yeah, so did I. Wally was a great guy. He was really friendly, and you know, talked to him between acts and everything. He was really just a pleasure to meet. Okay, everybody lean back. You don't want to get wet. It's the backside of water. Oh, somebody's wearing a tie.
That was the bus driver wearing the tie.
Maybe. I remember one day I was in Disney World. It was really hot, really humid, and I'm walking through the park, and we had to wear ties at the time. And you know, I had a radio on my hip, and I'm carrying a clipboard, got my name tag on, and somebody came up and we said, "Do you work here?" Like, do you think I'd be dressed like this if I didn't? You know? When they finally went to the management no longer needs to wear tie rule, unfortunately, I wasn't working there anymore, but all the time I was there, we had to wear ties out in the park.
It's the hairy leg again.
Yeah. See, we're seeing all the great delights of Disneyland. We're not having to get a reservation and spend 150 bucks and pay for 25, 30 bucks, whatever they're getting for parking. Unfortunately, yeah, there's no churros for anybody today, but what can you do?
Do they still sell the fritters in New Orleans Square, or did they stop those too?
You know, I don't know. I think they have them. I think they do, but I'm not entirely sure as they're moving things around that they reopened that little snack bar that was right by Pirates. I think they're still there.
Are you talking about the beignets?
Well, they called them New Orleans fritters at the time. Back in the day, they may be calling it
At the soup place, which aren't there.
My wife was saying there were fritters in the soup place, that Harbor Galley, which is by Rivers and Merritt.
The other one.
Anyway, they're no longer there. They have beignets.
Yeah, they have
and funnel cakes.
Thank you for the information. Those were our favorite. We used to go there after dinner and grab them, and along with some hot chocolate, and enjoy them.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we gotta stop doing these before lunch. You're making me hungry.
I know. Did they sell churros back in the day?
Back then, no. Back in the 70s, no. That they came out more in the 80s, 90s.
You know, Bill, this film has had more shots that you wouldn't be able to take as a visitor than any of the others.
Yeah.
You know, aerial and, you know, off to the sides and up from, yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're not allowed to bring your drone into the park now.
Wouldn't that be hysterical? Oh my God.
That'd be wonderful.
I was actually thinking what it would be if I started mine up, went out on the edge of the, you know, out on Harbor Boulevard, hopped it over the fence, flew it down Main Street, and got it back again. Knowing Disney, they probably have a laser beam system to shoot it down.
Yeah, and you too.
And as night falls, we say goodbye to our friends in Tomorrowland.
Seeing the Astrojets made me think of the fact that I had a friend that would never ride it all the way up. They stayed at that lower position. What they didn't realize, it was harder on you in that position because when you're up, it's like a banked turn. When you're down like that, you're fighting the centrifugal force the whole time.
That's interesting. Were they afraid of it? The height bothered them?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. They're afraid of the height. They just say, like, what if I fell out and all this sort of stuff? It's like, I don't know how you'd fall out, but it was a harder ride because of that centrifugal force thing when it was down like that versus up and you're kind of banking into that turn.
That's interesting. And then we had attraction highlights number 1, so now we have highlights number 2. And this was fun because this was another ride that I really like. Well, I shouldn't say ride, attraction. Got to get myself back in the vernacular. But I thought America Sings was a great show, and really sorry to see when it was taken out. So I've got the whole show that I shot on video on its final week. Carol and I went down and got it. I've got to find that. It's on an old beta tape. I got to go and find out and transfer. But as soon as I see this, the songs just all pop right back into my head. It was it was a fun way to spend a half hour with the old music.
What on the saddle?
Yeah, I don't think that's what you call it, that's not in this particular movie, but like this dog here, as soon as I see it, he's sitting there and they're playing in your old Kentucky home and the corn is going to start growing. He turns on and goes, "It's the good life." Just remember it perfectly, as they're all singing. And like I said, cheap effects, the corn pops open, the flat of the flowers comes up. It's, super, super low tech stuff. But I thought it was a really great show. And the finale, with so much music and everything going, I thought they did a really nice job on it.
Well, they have the record, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I went down south to sing my gals. I mean, probably oh, you do it all day. Like I said, it all just comes back to me. It makes you wonder how many times I must have seen the damn thing, but it was a great place to go on a warm day.
In its later years, it was never crowded either. So
Yeah, which is probably why it's gone. But no, we do. We had lunch. We might as well go kill something at lunch hour. I'd go out and ride around that out of do something for it.
it sat empty for so long after they closed it. So
Yeah.
should have left it open.
They just used it as storage for stuff for. It was really weird because you go in and all the flat sets were gone. The character animals were all gone, but like the set of the corn ears and everything, it was all just sitting there. And you'd have a meeting in there. People look for a thing and say, "Where do we have a meeting on so and such?" All right, let's meet in America Scenes Theater 4, and you'd just be sitting there and all that stuff be up on the stage. The things that now you think, oh boy, if I had a camera, but it was just going to work. Who takes pictures of work, right?
Mm-hmm. So recently, you could always just run over to Splash Mountain and see most of them. I suspect they're gone now. I wonder if they kept any of them for the Splash Mountain conversion.
Don't know. I believe so, but I don't have a lot of details on it.
That would have to be some record, the same animatronic used in 3 different attractions.
Well, some of them were probably even used for other bits and parts of things they had been salvaged from. Who knows? Maybe there's a Ford caveman still performing today.
I had heard that
donkey. There's the donkey. Well, you see, it's great, but they don't have the whole donkey. White build the whole thing. That was the stuff that I just found fascinating. So there's a guest, you just assume there's a whole donkey there, right?
Also, how simple some of the effects were that looked so realistic. The embers, the glowing embers, and all the burning the timbers that had burned already. And all it was aluminum foil and a little blinking light, flickering lights.
Yeah. Here's the leg.
Yep, there it is again. I wonder if he ever shaved.
Well, I don't know. I don't shave my leg, so why should he shave his?
Who got to glue all the hair on him?
They actually have to stick it in the hot plastic, and they stick it in with a little needle injector, and hair by hair by hair, they have to implant every single one of them individually. So off we go to another vanished land, the country bear. There's good old Henry, aka Pete Renaday.
So, Bill, Country Bear or America Sings?
Which of the two would I like to have back? Probably America Sings.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I like the Country Bears, no doubt about it. And it was really sad to see them take it out. But America Sings, I just thought was more variety to it. You know, the musical acts were so different.
Why did they take out Country Bear?
They basically cost a lot of money to run it, and it was getting very low attention or attendance. Disney, back in the days when they had the tickets, they would do a very detailed analysis of the guest activity, and it was very interesting because I would get those reports, and like for example, there was tremendous push to close the Fantasyland Theater because it had next to no attendance at times. But it also cost next to nothing to run it. It was just a projector running on an automatic loop. And we would point out to them that, you know, in maybe January attendance was really down, but in July it was up because people wanted to go into the air conditioning. When they built this particular attraction, they put 2 theaters in, so it had tremendous ride capacity, but it was a dead end to the park. So a lot of people didn't go all the way out there because that was the only thing to see out there. So for a while, they decided maybe we could just shut down one of the theaters on days of low attendance. But that became a problem because the show was so long that people had to wait. So if you just missed it, you had to hang around 30 minutes or so to go see the next show. And there was nothing else to do out there. So people would turn around and tend to walk away. So they just looked at the cost of maintaining all these AA figures, also the staff that it took because you needed to staff 2 particular theaters, and they decided to yank it out. I think it was a huge mistake.
We really liked it. One time we went, I believe it was in November, and we were the only 4 people at the show.
Yeah, I mean, it was a unfortunate part. It's a, you know, dead end, one of the only dead ends, you know, in the park, you know, because the way it was designed. And before Splash Mountain was put out there, there was really nothing else to, you know, to entertain you. You'll notice some of this footage, by the way, is identical to what was used in other movies. But yeah, I was, you know, I like the Bears. And it's going to be interesting to go back to Florida and see what the new Bear show. Excuse me. To see what the new Bear show is that they're redoing. I did like it, by the way, when they decided to do the overlays to the Bears, when they went with the you know, summer vacation or the Christmas vacation theme. I thought that was a masterful idea.
Yeah.
How long did that Stairway Up to Space Mountain last? I never saw it.
Didn't last very long. On opening day, we found a huge problem with it because the lines went all the way down to Main Street. And right in front of the Lincoln Theater, we were trying to see, you know, the line ever quite get to the train station? No, it got down to the Lincoln Theater. But now that meant you had to have a cast member at the top of the ramp and one at the bottom of the ramp to you know, stop people from going onto it, because you needed to get people out of the way going up to it. So when it was built, it was planned that, you know, people would just come up. They never envisioned the lines that they had, and you know, had to take out the speed ramp because people were just, you know, banging into the people up at the top.
Well, when they were doing the one for
cookies.
when they were doing the one for Disneyland, can you hear? Yeah, there it is. Exitencio had his, what he called no dough productions, you know, no money to do it. He would get volunteers from WDI to record things, and he was doing recording of all the launch stuff in the launch area, all the background sounds you're hearing of, you know, launch control and all this stuff. And a bunch of us were chosen, you know, asked to go and do it. And we recorded it, and that was kind of fun because you were part of the show now. But also, it turned out they did a series of TV commercials before it opened, and my voice was one of 3 that they recorded that was actually in that commercial. And so it was, I didn't get any residuals for it, but it was kind of fun to listen to the commercials like, hey, that was me that said that. So, you know, it was always fun with X. He did a lot of stuff like that.
What'd you say, Buck?
I don't remember now. It's been so long. I can't remember which one of my lines, but it was one of the, you know, checking in and saying, you know, so, you know, ready for launch or whatever type of thing. And so, like I say, he had no money to do it. We just did it and volunteered, but he took us all out to lunch. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was funny when I started at Disney. Jimmy McDonald was teaching Wayne Alwyn to do the voice of Mickey, and they'd be down the hall just for hours, going back and forth. Hey, Pluto, good dog. Oh, Donald, don't do that. And I at one point yelled back, in trying to do Mickey's voice about, you're driving me crazy. So they came down and talked, and it was, I guess I was brand new. I was with the company a week or so. And about a year later, they needed to have a line done for a commercial. It's summer fun at Disneyland. And Wayne had the worst cold of the entire universe. I mean, he'd call you up and you wouldn't even know who you were talking to. So they asked, could I please do It's Summer Fun Time at Disneyland? So I did. That's my one claim to fame is Mickey Mouse. Of course, I do not get residuals on that either. But it was kind of fun. You hear it on TV and you say, I know that guy, so it, oh, here's the mail call. So I've got, so let's see, besides the home video or the commercial ones, I also did a, somebody's home reel. Sorry, let me start this here and we'll take care of the mail. Oh, hang on here 1 second. Share screen. It's just as if it back to the beginning. This is 1960. Like being on hold, isn't it? So put the House of the Future down there. I understand, I don't know if it's true or not, that they've limited the ability to see these things to speed as much as they did when they originally opened them, because they wanted to reduce the protein spill component to it. Stuff you will not see today, a gunfight going on in the middle of the park. Real ducks on the bridge. This is a great bit with the motorboats here, Don. So sit down, don't get scared. It's going to turn out okay. It's probably one of the longest of the motorboat sequences I've found in film so far. Turn around, start steering.
Oh, keep your hands inside the vehicle at all times.
And he's still steering. At the very beginning, when the wheel's spinning around, you know, freely without anything, you think, okay, you know, it's not working, it's not doing anything. But I guess you got to get into it and really stay with the spirit of it, right?
Mhm.
So if folks are still in the mood for more, how about 1964? Let's see, 1 second here.
No,
Oh, actually, this is not Disneyland. Let's see. Let me check this one here. Okay. How about this one? I also did some. Okay, let me put this one. I had done some 2 World's Fair movies. All right, share screen. Here we go. So this was 1975 to 76. Yeah. That stops. That stops. It's too bad the characters can't really go out in the park today, you know, improvise and fool around like these guys can. You know, they just get too crowded and swamped. But I think that great impact. Temporary stage there. Into the kingdom. More motorboats. Having done one of the pigs in the park, I can say being fun if you actually hit your thing.
I bet those guys were tired at the end of the parade.
Oh boy, I bet. I only did one parade, and by the time I was done at the end, I did not want to do the second one.
You can see how much brighter this is in this particular film. It was obviously in better shape to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's shot through wax paper or anything. And again, the whole movies are generally done with Kodacolor movies, which did a lot better job in holding up their color than we can film for. Again, look at the crowd. Certainly a popular day there at the park. Let a sister vote like a mister.
Name of this parades.
Okay, I think that will end our trip to Disneyland today. Anybody have the sudden desire to go buy mouse ears? It is interesting to see how the park has changed over the years. I mean, so many of the things that are on there are just gone. You know that I mean it's unfortunate that some of it's gone. Some of the new stuff is really great. I mean, I was talking to Brock and I were at a lunch on Tuesday, and I was talking to another retired guy that Tom Morris and not Tom Morris, sorry, Paul Osterhout. And we were just talking about, some of the great things they've done. And he was saying he hasn't seen some of them because now he has to pay to go for admission. So he hasn't gone and checked them all out. But I mean, what they've done with some of the things like Mickey's Railway and the Star Wars stuff is really impressive. But again, I still miss the nostalgia, the silly little absolute zero tech rides like the motorboats. So let me just take a quick look through the chat and see what we got here.
You talked about half donkeys and things like that, and that reminded me when I took the backstage tour at Disney World. If you step just a foot out of the public area, suddenly there's no decoration. The buildings just have a flat coat of paint, but the sight lines must have been surveyed with a laser, because as soon as you step back inside the public area, you can't see any of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I remember my very first day walking from the onstage to the offstage area, and it was just wow. I mean, it was like Alice stepping through the looking glass or whatever sort of thing. It was just everything in the back is it's a whole different world out there, and they used to pay a lot more attention to the things like sightlines and that when they were doing Epcot. They had all sorts of issues as far as where to see things. And that's where they got a little greedy and so we'll put the Swan Hotel over here and the Dolphin. And now all of a sudden they could, the top of the things could be seen from within the park. So, if they didn't have the same sort of control or whatever that they had, but at times they would do things like say, okay, this building is going to be 60 feet tall, and they float up a 60-foot balloon and see, how can you see it and how do we mask it with a tree and what do you do? And they even went to the point where the backs of the buildings, like the Haunted Mansion building and the other ones that they're done with a special Disney green that they found was very, very neutral, and the eye would just not even pay attention to it. So you don't realize that if you're going through the Jungle Cruise and there's a building behind the trees that you don't see a big stark white building, it just kind of blends in. So they did some really amazing stuff to try to mask the outside world.
Quick comment to Eric. I saw your note there. I'll look at that and let you know if that's the recording or not. I'm assuming that's what it is.
Yep, that I just found the commercial online. I've seen that commercial through the years, and it just starts off with the mission control kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And right
it
as soon
may
as you
be.
start
I'll have.
talking about, I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Oh, we have a celebrity in our midst here, I mean, it's funny, you stand there on the line, you listen to those things, and you just think somebody actually wrote a script out and did all that. And how many takes did you have to do on it?
I think there's only a couple of takes. I mean, we had to, X was pretty good at telling us exactly what he wanted and how he wanted it said. And not that I'm an actor or anything like that, but I mean, it was just kind of like, he listened to it. Well, yeah, I like that one, but let's do another one. Just see, he might make a comment to a person about, doing this with their voice or whatever. And it was kind of fun just to do it. And then to find out, you were going to be in the park. It would be part of the recordings. And then, like I say, when the commercial came on the first time, I'm listening to it also. It's like, that was my line.
That's really it's kind of fun to be part of the magic, right?
Yeah.
That's why I tell you, I love doing the character bit. I've mentioned before, you do it for they have the Disney University, Disney Way, and Carol's got a picture of her with Miss Bianca head and that sort of thing. But we would go down for the employee Christmas parties and do it, and that's when the other guy, Mark Sturdivant, and I started going down on Saturdays to do Chip and Dale and everything. And just the way the kids love that stuff. I mean, super low tech. But wow, the kids just absolutely love meeting their cartoon heroes and everything. It most of what I do is all computer crap behind the scenes, nothing exciting. But when you go out and you see the look on the kid's face and everything, I mean, that was really a special part of working for the Mouse. And Beth would like to hear more from the people who worked in the landscaping and floral departments. Have you seen the book out there about the Disney landscaping? You have that, I assume?
Yeah, I think I have all the books on it.
Right. It's again amazing what they did as far as digging up trees on the side of the California freeways or something like that. But other things, the thing that always amazed me, the plant that looks like a cabbage, they put it out there and they had to find something that can grow, and take care of the heat extremes and all the rest of it, but also not worry about people picking it, because anything that you put in the park, you have to make sure people, if they eat it, they're not going to get sick. So there's all sorts of plants you can't use just because they have a toxic sort of nature. Although at some points we were talking about some of the gets, maybe we should go and get some of it, but yeah, I mean, what I always get a kick out of was you go to the park on a Tuesday, a Monday or Tuesday, and it would all be just dirt, and they'd be ripping everything out. And the next day on Wednesday, it would just look beautiful. I mean, they would do incredible work of filling it all in. particularly when you got to the holidays at Christmas time, they ripped everything out and started putting poinsettias in all over the place and everything. It was really, really pretty. So, and then in Florida too, I remember they were growing all the topiary figures. It was out by the wastewater treatment plant. They had a whole facility out there. They were growing the topiaries because they had first grown them, and then they were having the problems. Everybody was running out to take their pictures, and they were basically tearing apart the topiaries. And I was so disappointed. I went out there, and they were made out of plastic, and they had a little sign about we're wearing our plastic coats today, and meanwhile they were growing the new ones. But I think they still give a tour. I don't know if they still do it. They before the pandemic, they still gave a tour at Disney World, where they took you out to the plant nursery area. You might look into that and see if they're still doing that or not.
Yeah, I'll have to look for that one. I haven't seen that one on the list, but I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, I mean they had a couple of them. They take you down. Have you been down the tunnels, the utilidors?
No, but I've seen that one on the list of tours that are offered. I don't remember seeing one for the landscaping though. I'll have to look for that one specifically.
Yeah, I mean it was for a while there, they wouldn't even admit that the tunnels and everything existed. And then somebody realized we can make money on this. So down you go. But if you get back, if you do go, let us know if they have the landscaping one. Like I said, it was kind of fun to go out there and watch them pruning all the animals and treating them and all. And they had like 100 of them out in fields at various, states of growing them, because they sure take some time.
Beth, since you're interested in that sort of stuff, do you do much cruising at all? Have you ever done a cruise on a cruise ship?
We've done a couple.
If you ever go on Royal Caribbean, their big ships that they put out the last few years have these park-like things in the middle of them.
Oh, wow.
Which are landscaped, and there's a tour they give. They tell you how they actually grew this stuff, how they put it in. Some of it had to be put in before the ship was launched or at a certain point because they wouldn't be able to get it there otherwise. And then also how they had to deal with the fact that they're going to get ocean spray, salt spray on it.
Right.
It's a fascinating tour. So if you're ever on one of those big ships, I can't remember the one we were on, the name of it, but this was now about 8 years ago. So with the new ships at that time, and they were their biggest ones. And it was really quite fascinating to hear the whole story of how they put it all together.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Glenn,
Just thinking about all the different conditions, that they have to plan for.
Yeah.
Glenn, I actually worked aboard Eclipse or several ships, but a lot of the celebrity ships and the big I forget I think the Solstice class ships had lawns on top of them. So we're walking along one day and there's a guy with a little push lawnmower up there, just mowing the lawn on the top deck. And then we were, I think, anchored off of Israel or someplace, and they were talking about how they had to do something to get rid of all the grasshoppers.
It seemed though that if you build a ship that you've got to put the trees or something in and then finish building a ship, all I can think was, didn't they learn anything from the Haunted Mansion with the hole in the glass? What are you going to do if one of those trees dies?
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just this week, you watch something on YouTube and other stuff pops up. And there was that thing there about the USS New Jersey, the battleship. And they were talking about they're moving it to dry dock, but they needed to know when they were going to tow it with the propellers still turn with the water, because if the propeller turns, the engine's going to turn, and the engines are not supposed to turn because they don't have oil or everything in it. So they went down into the bowels of the USS New Jersey to figure out how the propellers are locked, and they showed it. But the guy started talking about how the ship, the thing runs, I think he said it was 160 feet long, the propeller shaft, and how they had to be able to do it in sections so they could take it apart. And you don't think about it, but it was really funny because he said, for those of you with a battleship at home, this is how you change your propeller shaft. But it was he was going on and on how the Navy had a plan on doing, as you built these things, you had to plan the fact that it's going to get hurt and you got to take it apart and fix it again. So I hope the Royal Caribbean guys have a way to get their dead trees out of there.
Actually, they do. They can do it, but it's also part of those parks. They actually are planter sections that can be lifted out. They have a special crane system they put in because access to all the below decks, plumbing and stuff that runs between the certain decks is all in that area. And like I say, it's just amazing what they had to think about and how to plan it and how to make it work. So.
Yeah, Carol,
All those
one
documentaries
of the
on
cruise
are
tours, we took the kitchen cruise. That was really interesting. Sorry, Eric, you were saying something?
I was gonna say those documentaries that come up every once in a while on just cruise ships and the operations of cruise ships. It's just incredible. These small cities, basically,
Yeah.
and then how it turns around after the end of a 7-day cruise, and how they have to quickly turn around, take out, all the garbage out and all the new fresh fruit and food and stuff coming in, and it's all like within like 5 hours. Something nuts.
Yeah, it's interesting too. You watch sometimes the news, people are upset because the cruise ship couldn't go someplace because a thing like a hurricane got in its way, and they're all yelling and screaming that we weren't able to do what we wanted to do. I don't think people realize they're on a ship. It's in the ocean, and bad things happen. And they'll say like, we didn't get to go see so and such. I wouldn't want to be on a category 5 in one of those things, I mean, Jesus, it'd be terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bill,
I
we
would-
used to call that vacation brain, cruise brain, because you'd see
Yeah.
people saying just the dumbest stuff or expecting things that you can't do on a ship that you could obviously do at a hotel on land or something, and it's magical to them. But when you've seen the turnaround a few times, Eric, you're right. It's just amazing that what they can do in 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
No, we always
That vacation brain's also at Disney too. Like you'll see it. People
Well, that's
are
true.
entitled. I need to do this. What do Space Mountain's down, but I came all this way to ride this ride, and it's broken. Like, what can you do?
Well, we had one day we were working at Disneyland. Back and again was closed Mondays and Tuesdays. We would do inventories of the shops and make sure that people were being honest, that sort of thing. And one day we were out at the main gate area, and we were just counting. And you got to count every stupid little pencil and flag and everything, and try to balance the books and everything. And the painters had left the gate. They were painting the gates, and they had left the thing open to dry. And then turn around and look, and there's this family walking into the gates, and it was like, excuse me. I felt like John Candy. Excuse me, the moose outside should have told you the park closed, right? So they were very, very upset. They had come all the way from Oklahoma or something, and they'd driven all the way there. And of course, the toll booths at the park, they just drive in the parking lot. There's nobody there. They walk in, and they think the park's open, and it was like, we're sorry. No, you have to turn around and leave. Meanwhile, I'm telling somebody, go get security, because they would not leave. I said, you really got to go. And the guys, we came all the way from Oklahoma. It's not fair. I said, we're always closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Look, can't you start one ride up for us? Can't we just go and ride the Haunted Mansion? I don't have the keys for it. And literally security had a heck of a time getting this guy out of the park because he wanted to go show his kids Disneyland. We're open tomorrow. Come back. It was really bizarre having them wander around in there. So yeah.
Hey Bill, one of the you mentioned the whole I think they call it go away green, the color green that they paint certain buildings, and there's a version of blue. We happened to get backstage one time not that long ago at Walt Disney World, and they just built behind they converted the universe of energy attraction into the Guardians ride. It's a roller coaster now, right? But now to build the roller coaster, they created this enormous giant building. I mean, they didn't do any kind of theming to it on the outside. It's just a giant box, and it's amazing. You don't realize it, but they painted like basically the 3 main go away color paints that they have. So on the bottom parts, the greens, and on the top parts, the blues. It's just amazing to see. Like you don't see it right away. And I think it's almost as large as Spaceship Earth is, that building, but because it's kind of off to the side and it's painted that they'll go away blue or go away greens, it's just amazing how the brain works that way sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't been there since they did that, but I guess it didn't quite go away because you noticed it. But yeah, it's better than it was just white.
I think didn't
Absolutely.
they do the same thing in the enclosure where they were building the Tron ride?
Probably.
Because I remember they were building it the last time I was there.
Yeah, yeah. But even like at Disneyland with the Indiana Jones attraction, that's also a big box. And at first they painted like palm trees and they try to make it very the foliage. And now I think they've given up on that budget. Because if you look at it and you're on the monorail, passing by, it's just this weird faded go away kind of green, but it doesn't look like it's been touched for like a few years. It's terrible, but they're not trying as hard right now over there. The budget isn't there for that.
By the way, Richard Herring says here, the drive shaft of the battleship is connected with cotter pins. Yeah. It was actually connected with these giant nuts, and they show on it, each one of the nuts is stamped USS NJ. They were custom made for it. And the guy said, well, where do you get a wrench for it? Well, he said, down here in the bilge, when the Navy gave us a ship, they left the wrench. And it's this big ass wrench. And you basically hit it with a hammer, to get it looser, to knock it in. And people say, oh, today with a torque wrench, you just come in, like you change tires in a car. But it was fascinating a little bit that the Battleship New Jersey has all these great little videos about it. So if you get time to waste, so you can again see how to change your battleship, fix it or anything. So yeah, just reading here. So well, I hope folks enjoyed their look at Disneyland. It's likely that Carol and I will not be here for the next few weeks because our daughter is going to turn us into grandparents, and she called yesterday and say it's likely to be next weekend. It was supposed to be 2 weeks from now, and it looks like the little angel is showing up earlier. So I think Carol and I may be running to the airport and heading to Seattle sometime Thursday or Friday this week. So I will keep people posted on put it on the website, but email when I know what our schedule is. But we will probably be gone for 2-3 weeks or something like that, and when I come back, I'll show you all the baby pictures.
So have you picked out your grandparent names yet? Like, are you Nana and Pop, or have you decided on your grandparent names?
I'm Bill and Carol. I tell you, it's really hard to get used to the idea of Nan, Pop, Nana, Pop, whatever. I mean, that's for old folks. I mean,
Is this going to be your first grandchild?
The first one, yeah.
First
So
one.
yeah, I have no idea. It's interesting. So different parts of the country, they seem to go with different vernaculars or different things. So I don't know what we'll come up with. So luckily she won't be talking for a while, so I don't have to worry about it. They haven't even told us that they finally picked a name yet, so we don't know if it's baby this or baby that or whatever. So we'll find out. But yeah, we're excited about it.
If it's a boy or a girl.
It's a girl. It's a girl.
Okay.
So Carol has been for a while buying little girly outfits and buying stuff ready to go. So yeah, we're just waiting for the call. If everybody remembers the old Dick Van Dyke show where he has a bag ready to go and he's got his hat and off he goes, he's out the door and he forgets Laura, that sort of thing. We're getting our to-go bags ready to go, and we'll be set to run up to Seattle. So
How did your daughter address her grandfathers?
Good question. I guess just Pop, Papa. Yeah.
Both of them?
Well, your father was Papa,
Yeah.
but my father was Papa Hans.
Yeah.
That was his
right.
name. He didn't believe in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously your daughter probably may have a name chosen for you. Sometimes, the name is chosen just based on what, the baby utters out of her mouth, and that just sticks. But then again, you also have a right to a point that you don't want to be called some goofy grandfather name like, Grandpa Poo Poo or something like that. That just doesn't want to. You just don't want that. So
my daughter has her way. I'll be known as the Bank of Dads. So
Grandpa farts a lot.
yeah.
Sorry.
Everybody, let's say goodbye to Tom. We've enjoyed his friendship over the years.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Oh, by the way, I see Kathy is on the screen there. I have tentative word that August 26th, I'll be giving a presentation at the Queen's Theater in New York to help celebrate the 64-65 World's Fair. The Queen's Museum has not come up with anything, and the Queen's Theater, who I did 2 talks at for the 50th anniversary, we were joking, but we got to stop meeting like this every 10 years. And I said, I hope I meet you again 10 years from now. But we've set a tentative date of August 26th for a New York 64 gathering. So as that gets finalized or gels, I'll post more on it. But if anybody happens to be thinking of a trip to New York this summer, August 26th is the tentative date right now. So that's just as of midnight last night. So
yeah, please send that out to us. That might happen.
yeah, as I get it firmed down and locked up, I'll look forward. So Jim in New York, the Theaterama, by the way, is going to do something every month to celebrate the fair. They're going to start in April, do something every month, and they when I talked to the woman in charge of it, they're desperately trying to get a date from the city of New York on when the pavilion progress will be moving along and what the end dates are. But she wants to talk to Mitch and you guys about trying to find some way to get you guys involved in the issues as well. So we had a real nice chat on Thursday for about 40 minutes about possibilities. So they are going to have, 1 month they're going to do something with kids coming in and doing things. They have basically every month they're going to try to do something to keep the fair memory alive and celebrate the fact that it's the 60th anniversary. They're having a tremendous problem that they've cut the budget. They've had 2 budget cuts already, and they've got a 3rd budget cut coming because the city is spending so much money on hosting, illegals that are being dumped into the city by, the truckload, that the money's going from museums into housing shelters, and they're having a real battle with it. So as I hear more, I'll let you know. But the Queen's Museum seems to have vanished. The Queen's Theater, luckily, they're super interested in doing something, and I really liked working with them 10 years ago. They were really great, and we had a lot of fun with it. So I'll keep people posted on that. So we'll be back in a couple weeks, and I wish everybody well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bill.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, thank you.
Bye-bye.
No problem.
Bye-bye,
Take care.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.